Hi, I'm August Keller, and here are my updated Oscar predictions for the year 2026. So at number 16, I have The Ballad of a Small Player, which last time I had it ranked 11, so I've dropped it down some. This is directed by the man who directed Conclave and All Quiet on the Western Front, so he's 2 for 2 so far. Not only were both of those movies nominated, but they were both very much in the win conversation. I think you could say they were both second place in their given year. So him coming out with another movie, it's something to take note of. It's also Netflix, which Netflix has, I think, 4 movies on this list, so it's hard to see, if Netflix is going to be able to push all of them, and they might have to consolidate around a different movie. So it makes me think that this movie is a little more iffy. Next, at number 15, I have A House of Dynamite, which is also a Netflix movie. This is like a political thriller, and genre movies are not always the Academy's cup of tea, but this is at least a thriller, a political thriller, which is something that they will go for. It's also directed by Catherine Bigelow, who has had history with the Academy. Hurt Locker, she directed Hurt Locker, and she's had other movies that have been nominated. But it's pretty far away, and I'm skeptical because it is a thriller. That makes me hesitate. Next, at number 14 is a movie. So House of Dynamite was previously not on my list, and so is this one wasn't on my list. It was Just an Accident, which is the Palme d'Or winner this year. So far, it doesn't have a distributor in the U.S. And while it did win the Palme d'Or, I don't think that's necessarily a given that it'll be nominated for Best Picture, especially because it's a very it's not an American film. The Cannes Film Festival is much more international than the Academy, so, and it's also judged by a jury. So, I'm not very sold on this movie being in, but it is because it won the Palme d'Or this year. It is something that's going to hang around the conversation, and it should be in the mix for Best International Feature, at least getting nominated there. And movies from that category often get, at least a couple of them get into Best Picture, so it's in the discussion for sure. At number 13 is a movie that's dropped 7 spots for me since last time. I had it at number 6. Now I have it at number 13. Is Hamnet, which is directed by Chloe Zhao. It's got a nice, interesting cast with Paul Mescal and what's her name? I'm blanking on her name, but it has an interesting cast. And a cast that I believe in. They all have had, either been nominated or been close to being nominated. Chloe Zhao, she won Best Picture her last, very recently, I think 2021. So it'll be interesting to see her go back to a more Academy-friendly movie. Shakespeare is something that the Academy can go for. Focus Features has another movie, so I'm not sure if it's going to be this or that, but I think this is something that I think is going to be around the on the bubble. Another movie on the bubble, I have a number 12. Previously, I had number 4 is Avatar: Fire and Ash. Obviously, the previous 2 Avatar movies were nominated for Best Picture, and of course, I think this movie is going to break $1 billion at the box office. So that's something that it'll be good for it, and it's coming out around Christmas. So right around the time that voting is going to be happening, this movie is going to be doing well at the box office. It really just depends on how good of a movie it is. I mean, I think the previous 2 movies, I think people will admit, are not that good of movies beyond them being technical achievements, special effects wise, but as a story, they're not groundbreaking stories. And if this one can be the best written story of the 3, I think that's something to consider. And James Cameron, he has a lot of history with the Academy of beyond just Avatar movies, and so I struggle to count this out, but I also am hesitant to pick sequels, because sequels can, they have a big shadow to live up to. We saw it last year with Joker and Mad Max and Gladiator. All 3 of those movies were follow-ups to Academy movies that did really well at the Oscars, but all 3 of them did nothing. Or I think maybe Gladiator got one nomination or two. Um, so it's harder for sequels to follow up and do as well as their predecessors. So yeah, Avatar I'm kind of torn, but I think having it here at 12 is my best bet. At number 11 is another movie that this movie I really wanted to try to get into my top 10 is Frankenstein. I had it at 9 last time, so I've dropped it 2 spots. Frankenstein, much like like I said before, it's a genre movie. It's like fantasy. It could be kind of even horror. But I think there is prestige around it being Frankenstein. It's a classic horror monster, and and from what I understand, Guillermo del Toro is really trying to adapt the book, the source material, so that's got some prestige behind it. And of course, Guillermo del Toro is someone who has done a lot of great things with the Academy. His most recent movie, Nightmare Alley, I think might be one of his less well received movies. People aren't that crazy about it compared to like Shape of Water or Pan's Labyrinth, but people they thought it was good and it got in. And I think having a name like that really buoys a movie. And just last year, Nosferatu, that is a horror movie, but it's based on a classic horror monster. It's got some prestige behind it, and even though that didn't make Best Picture, it did get a good amount of nominations in the text, and makes me think that it was close to Best Picture, maybe in the top 15, something like that. And so that makes me think that that's Frankenstein's floor. But because it has Guillermo del Toro, an established auteur attached to it, it makes me want to say that it could get in. And I think, I'm personally very interested. I think Guillermo del Toro and Frankenstein, those two things should fit together like a hand in a glove. And I think I'm optimistic that it'll be a very good movie. So yeah, I wanted to put it in the top 10, but because of it being such a genre movie, it makes me hesitant, and so I ended up putting it here at 11. At number 10, I have After the Hunt, which is what I had at number 5 last time, so I've dropped it 5 spots. This is directed by Luca Guadagnino, who has had some success with the Academy, but also last year he had 2 movies come out. 2 movies that I thought were very good, and neither of them got nominated at all in Challengers and Queer. This movie has a big established actress in Julia Roberts, so there could be a lot of buzz around her getting a nomination. The Academy likes to nominate people like that. And if she has a good, strong performance and the movie is good, that she could like really lead this movie's campaign. And, when someone in a lead role gets nominated on a movie, that there's a good chance that movie gets nominated in Best Picture. So, yeah, and, Luca is someone that the Academy is familiar with, even though they haven't taken to all of his movies. They have taken to some of his movies in the past. This is also Amazon MGM's only contender, it seems like, at this point. So if they can put all their campaigning into this, I think they can get it in. So yeah, I have it here at 10. At number 9, I have a movie that I did not have ranked last time, so it's coming in from unranked, number 9, and that's Rental Family. It seems to be Searchlight's big contender. So again, we have something that the distributor can focus on campaigning. It also seems to be getting buzz as make a possible TIFF Best Audience Award winner. It seems like it might be one of those like feel-good, crowd-pleasing movies. Maybe a little bit of tearjerker-ness to it. What's his name? Brendan Fraser is going to be the lead, and he got his first Oscar nomination and win just a couple of years ago. So maybe the Academy's excited to welcome him back and get him nominated again. And if someone's nominated in the lead role, especially in the male lead, there's a strong correlation to that getting nominated in Best Picture. So yeah, all those things make me think that this is a good bet. I am skeptical because I'm not certain it's gonna get all that momentum, because it could just be like this little indie thing that comes and goes. I think it's really gonna depend on how well it does at TIFF. If it's like in contention for the audience award there, I think that's really gonna make or break its campaign. But yeah, that anyways, that makes me put it here. At number 8 is a movie I had at number 12 last time, and that's Begonia. Um, this is Focus Features. So this and Hamnet seems to be Focus Features as like two contenders. This is directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, who did Poor Things, which did really well at the Oscars just a couple years ago. But he also did Kinds of Kindness since then, which did nothing at the Oscars. So he's a very peculiar director. He has a very strange sensibility, which I personally really like, but can be a little bit too artsy fartsy for the Academy, and that is something I'm worried about with Begonia. It sounds like it's like a really genre bendy thing where it might have some sci-fi elements, but it's also political satire. So the political satire, of course, the Academy will go for. But if it's too sci-fi, I am concerned. And if it's too weird, but Poor Things was pretty weird, but it was weird in the like an accessible way. So the Academy went for it. So I don't know. I'm pretty torn. I think a lot of the pros and cons of Frankenstein, which I was just talking about at 11, could be said about this. I think the reason I am more confident in this is because it is Focus Features, and Focus Features, it might be their front runner, where Frankenstein might be Netflix's second or third priority. So yeah, all that is to say that I'm going to put Begonia here for now at number 8. At number 7, I have a movie that I had at number 8 last time, so I haven't really moved it very much, is Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere. The Academy seems to really love biopics. I keep waiting for it to fail, but this seems to be the big biopic of the year. It's 20th Century Fox, 20th Century, so that's a pretty big studio, and it seems, besides Avatar, it seems to be their only contender. And Avatar's their big popcorn contender. This is their more prestige contender, and it also has Jeremy Allen White playing Springsteen, and he's like a very hot name right now. People are really excited about him from The Bear. He's young and up and coming, but he's also established. He's been around a while since he was on Shameless. So yeah, that makes me think he's very likely to get nominated. And then because he's very likely to get nominated, maybe even in the winning contention, this movie should get nominated for Best Picture. That's just how it goes. That Bob Dylan movie just last year, A Complete Unknown, this seems to be just copy and paste, very similar. So yeah, I feel pretty good about this being nominated. I am worried. Sometimes biopics do come and go, like the Whitney Houston movie a couple years ago, but I think this one is something that studio seems to believe in more. It has a more favorable release date. So yeah, I don't really think there's a good reason to doubt this one. At number 6, I have Wicked for Good, which I had at number 3 last time. So I've dropped it a little bit. Like I said, I'm hesitant with sequels, so that does make me concerned about this movie. But it's Universal's only contender here on this list. It's it's at the very least, it's not this like tacked on sequel. It's a sequel that was intended to be made from the beginning. It was shot together. The Last Wicked was just last year. It was very popular, did really well at the Academy and at the box office and with audiences. I think there's a good chance that this won't live up to that, but at least it will feel like a conclusion. So that might help people feel like it's a good movie, even if it doesn't have the same, like the last one had the good songs. This one I think is going to be missing that. But there's still going to be plenty of like production design and things like that. And the Academy does like musicals, I think, probably more than the general public. So yeah, all that is to say, that's why I'm having it in the middle. I don't think it's a slam dunk. It's going to be in for sure, but there are also a lot of reasons to have it in. So I kind of have it in the middle here. I think, especially because it's Universal's number 1 contender. So at number 5 and up, these are the movies that I feel pretty confident in. I think I almost feel like, I don't want to say lock this early in because anything can happen, but I would say these are the ones that I would. I think there's a separation between these top 5 and the rest. So at number 5, I have One Battle After Another, which I had at number 1 last time. I've dropped it down some because I did see the trailer and I am kind of skeptical. It doesn't seem like necessarily the exact kind of tone that the Academy goes for. But again, it has Leonardo DiCaprio, who has a great track record with the Academy, and it's also directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, who also has a great track record. It's coming out in September, which is a little earlier than I think I would have liked to see, but it is still in the fall. And it's one of Warner Brothers' top 2 contenders, it seems like. But yeah, really, it's Leo and PTA. Those 2 names being attached really give me a lot of confidence that this is going to be nominated, because those 2 have made a lot of movies recently that have been, even the ones that aren't like that well received, still seem to get in. So yeah, it's hard to make an argument for movies above, putting many movies above this. Okay, at number 4 is a movie I had at number 13. So, it was on my radar, but I was skeptical. But there seems to be a lot of chatter about Jay Kelly being a real serious contender. It's written and directed by Noah Baumbach, who did A Marriage Story. He has done a movie since then called, what was it called? White Noise, which very much did not get any acknowledgement from the Academy, which is why I was skeptical last time. But everything I'm hearing is that this is a very straight, like, accessible drama. And it's about Hollywood, and it's about acting, which the Academy likes, that kind of thing. It's got a very big, recognizable cast, and George Clooney and Adam Sandler, apparently they both give great performances that might be nomination worthy. So that's something to attach and a campaign around. And this probably will be Netflix's number 1 contender. This, I named Frankenstein and I named those other 2, House of Dynamite and Ballad of a Small Player, but this one seems to be to be the most accessible, their best bet. So this will probably be the one that they're campaigning the hardest. So all those reasons make me think that this is a good bet, and I have it at number 4. At number 3, I have Marty Supreme, which is A24's only contender here that I have on this list. It's got Timothée Chalamet, who, much like Leonardo DiCaprio, it seems to be doing very well with the Academy. He had 2 movies nominated for Best Picture last year, in Dune 2 and A Complete Unknown. It's directed by one of the Safdie brothers, who have not been nominated yet, but they have made critically acclaimed movies, so maybe this is the chance to break in. This also seems to be a biopic, which might be a nice way for a Safdie brother to get into the Academy recognition. It sounds like it's got a really big budget for an A24 movie. So yeah, this seems like the movie that they're betting on to be their Oscar contender. And they have done well in recent years of getting at least 1 or 2 movies in and having those movies be serious contenders. So all that is to say that I'm very confident in this being nominated. And I also feel like this is one of the movies that's likely to be in the winning contention. At number 2, I have Sentimental Value, which I had at number 7 last time. So I've jumped it up a little bit. It did very, very well at the Cannes Film Festival. It didn't win the Palme d'Or, but I think that's not the most important thing, because the Palme d'Or is judged by a jury rather than a larger voting body. But it seems to be the more buzzy movie. It was in contention to win the Palme d'Or, and it's directed by the man who directed The Worst Person in the World, which got nominated just a couple of years ago. So this seems to be another good follow-up with the same actress, and it's got an established actor in it too. And yeah, it seems like coming out of the Cannes Film Festival, this was actually the movie with the most Oscar buzz. And so, yeah, it seems like this is I think this is basically a lock to get nominated, and seems to be in the winning discussion already. Okay, and at number 1, I have Sinners, which is a movie that I did not have ranked last time, which I'm kind of embarrassed by, but it just seems to really kind of crash the party, because I don't think really much of anyone had it in the nomination range. But yeah, the reason this movie is number 1 is because it came out already. So we know what this movie is. We know that it did well, very, very well at the box office, that it did very well with critics, that it did very well with audiences, and that it is kind of this, has this cultural significance already. And I think people are already kind of dubbing it the movie of 2025. I think it's going to be hard to top. So I don't know if it's going to win because it is a horror movie. But it is social commentary, which the audience, the Academy goes for. I think this is definitely going to be the movie that like film Twitter is going to be pushing for, because it is the more populist popcorn movie out of all these movies on this list. It's the movie that's probably going to be the most seen. But yeah, because we know what it is, it's just, it can't fail. You know, a movie like One Battle After Another, or Jay Kelly, they could fail. Marty Supreme could fail because it hasn't come out yet. But Sinners has come out. We know it's a success. And that makes me think it's 100% going to be nominated. And it's probably going to be in the winning conversation. So, yeah, it's going to get a lot of it's going to probably get a lot of nominations because there's a lot of text to give it. There might be an acting nomination in there for someone. So, yeah, that's all I got. If you like what I'm doing here, please feel free to like and subscribe. I also have an Instagram linked in the description. I'd love support there or here. But at the very least, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time. Okay, thanks.